So after Man City's thrashing, I recorded my post-match reaction of CBS Sports, but unfortunately they didn't talk much about Real Madrid. However, ESPN FC had much better discussion of Real Madrid's performance against Man City. They made a lot of strong points that I do agree. At the same time, they made a lot of points that I disagree. So today we are going to react to ESPN FC's analysis.
Should we talk Real Madrid?
Sure, why not?
Where did it go wrong?
Showing up.
So I would even argue that it's not just showing up. Man City did not let Real Madrid to show up. Simply say that one team just had better game plan than the other team.
Was it just a case of that even at their best they couldn't have handled City today?
Look, this version of Manchester City is untouchable by Real Madrid or by anybody else in the world. Having said that, let's put that to the side for a second. We have been saying for a while now, for Real Madrid, they've been having performances over the course of the season in La Liga where we watch them week in and week out, and they are disinterested, and they don't care. And our excuse for them, built-in excuse, hey, Champions League, this team is different.
So I have to pause here. It's not the Real Madrid players did not care about La Liga. In fact, why it looked like Real Madrid player doesn't care about La Liga is that they were already significantly adrift from Barca in terms of points table. So when you have 12, 14 points difference, what's the motivation? Say if it be only 2 points difference, the motivation level would be different. That's why they didn't care about La Liga.
Different version of...
Because of what we've seen in the past.
Right. And so we lean on that, and I think they themselves lean on that. But if you haven't been all that good over the course of a whole long season, and you have had more than one dip over the course of that long season, those things tend to show up in the worst moments. You can't just be an average team and then become a great team just because of the night, just because of the stage, just because of the moment.
I understand what he's trying to say here, that it's very difficult for a team to play a really bad or not acceptable level in La Liga and suddenly become different team in Champions League. In fact, we have seen that, right? We have seen against Liverpool and Chelsea, the way Real Madrid was playing, that was astonishingly good, especially if you compare with La Liga's performance.
The flaws that they have shown over the course of the season in La Liga, they all showed up today. When things got difficult for Real Madrid today, the team, they got disconnected. They were no longer a sense of a group. They got disorganized. When they figured out that they couldn't go in transition, that they couldn't get possession of the ball, now Vinicius not working back is no longer a, oh, well, look how Vinicius, what he does is that he's just waiting for the transition. Well, now it's one less body defending. When Karim Benzema doesn't get involved in any sort of build-up play or provide you the outlet that he usually does for this team and that they rely upon him to provide, then it's one less player. So now you're defending, not with 11 players, now you're defending with 9 against a team like Manchester City that is playing at the level that they were playing. Rodrigo, nowhere to be found. Valverde, nowhere to be found. Toni Kroos, Luka Modric. And look at the names that I'm saying here.
Honestly, this is a really strong point. When you play Champions League against one of the biggest teams, you just cannot expect to defend with 9 players. And you have seen when Real Madrid was playing 9 versus 11 because Vinicius and Benzema wasn't defending at all. And that's why our midfield was outnumbered by Man City's midfield and players. All of their defenders were going so forward and making passes to their attackers. As a result, we lost the midfield battle. In modern football, one battle that you cannot lose is midfield battle. Midfield battle is the place where you win a game or lose.
They're not small names. These are world superstars. Nowhere to be found in terms of possession, in terms of leadership, in terms of presence, in terms of being Real Madrid. This team had been given signs over the course of the year that they had a performance like this in them, and it eventually caught up to them. And Manchester City exposed everything that had been wrong with this team over the course of the season.
I think I would disagree a little bit because he said Man City exposed Real Madrid. Now here's why I disagree. Is the tactics. When you play against Man City, you just cannot have so many experienced and old players at midfield. I told you many times that you cannot play Modric and Kroos together in high-intensity match like this. As much as they have the experience, they don't have the legs. Kroos was playing as a defensive midfielder. Does he have the high work rate? A position where you have to have high work rate, and Kroos is not that player, and you were expecting Kroos to defend? That's impossible. Also, if you see our history, that when we lost big match like this, like say against Barca last year when they have beaten us by 4 goals, we had the same issue. When you press Kroos and Modric, our attack become infertile, and that is exactly what we saw again. And it's nothing new. That's why you need young players mixed with experienced player at midfield. Also, I told you in my last video that without a DM, you cannot play modern football.
And as Ali said, and that was a point that I was thinking about as well, is it's all very well talking about Vinicius Junior in particular cheating and not chasing back. But when you're playing against teams that are producing this kind of quality, it can't be done.
Right.
It maybe can be done on the odd occasion, but it can't be done on a regular basis, not against the elite teams. You can't leave, particularly when you've got guys in the middle of the park that are, mid-30s and above, some of them, 2 of them. You can't leave them as exposed as that front 3 in particular left them exposed tonight.
That's a really good point, because when we saw the match, like sometimes Kroos had to deal with 2 players, Modric had to deal with 2 players, Fede Valverde had to play with 2 players. So Man City was outnumbered in every respect at the midfield. So when you have a game plan to be defensive minded, I understand that, but in that case, every player on the pitch has to defend. Benzema wasn't defending at all. Vinicius wasn't defending.
So even when Benzema got the ball to feet, it wasn't. He didn't look himself, did he? He gave it away and passed the ball out to play at one point for a 5-yard pass. And it's hard to blame the back 4. It's hard to look at the back 4 of Real Madrid and go, well, because what do you do when you're getting no protection and you have the best club side probably in the world in terms of talent and the football they play, coming at you wave after wave after wave, and you've got runners from midfield that are not getting picked up, and Gundogan, you've got De Bruyne and floating around, you got John Stones popping in there, you got what do you do as a back 4? There's only so, and by the way, you're trying to take care of Erling Haaland. There's only so much you can do if the rest of the team are not functioning. And quite frankly, this Real Madrid team are not functioning properly. That's why they got hammered tonight. That's why they were a country mile off Barcelona, who we know are not a great side. Barcelona, by the way, who finished below Bayern Munich and Inter in the group stage in the Champions League and were put out by Man United. So it kind of tells you where Real Madrid are. And I think we saw an Ancelotti, a manager who sat at the side and just did not have any answers tonight.
In fact, if you see our individual performance, every player was bad except Courtois. He talked about Benzema's poor passing. Yeah, indeed, his passing was really bad. But in fact, if you talk about passing, Modric and Kroos, how often you see them making passing mistake? They could not make one good pass at times, especially at first half. When experienced players like this do passing mistake, how do you expect to win a game like this?
John Stones looked like a natural midfielder. That's how much time and space he had. I thought Rodri was brilliant again, brilliantly efficient. He just takes the ball and he allows them to shepherd it from one side to the other.
So for this match, Rodri was playing as if he's playing against high schooler footballer. Like the physicality between him and our players was astronomical.
But none of this was a surprise for Ancelotti.
Right.
He came into this game, Guardiola, as I said, I'm not doing anything different. This is what we've done most of the year. We've had success. I'm not going to tinker. So they knew Rodri and Stones, for the most part, were going to be in the middle. And yet he allowed those 2 wide guys, Rodrigo and Vinicius Junior, to stand up out in the wide position while they got absolutely screwed in the middle of the park. That's poor. It's not like City did anything tonight and went, oh, didn't see that coming.
Right.
He played it the way they've been playing it for weeks.
The worst
and it's
thing.
been successful.
And this is what frustrates me the most, because we know how City plays. Carlo knows how City plays, but he did not have a good game plan to counteract.
He exposed 2 of his greatest players, 2 of Real Madrid's, I'd say greatest midfielders, certainly Obviously, in the last 10 years, they've been two of the best midfielders in world football. Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, in particular. Valverde's a younger lad. He exposed them to arguably one of the biggest pummelings of their careers. Yeah. And he left them exposed, and he sat on the bench and watched it. You know, not for 10 minutes, not for 20 minutes, for 40, 45 minutes. He sat there and watched those two in particular being dragged from pillar to post.
So this point's really important, and I strongly agree. It's not that Modric and Kroos forgot how to play football. It's our game plan left them exposed. When they're older and they have to run so much and they have to deal with multiple players, and each of them had to defend multiple players from Man City, and that's impossible to do at this age. And same can be said for Camavinga. Yes, it was one of Camavinga's worst performance. However, he was also exposed because he had to deal with two different players. For example, once he had to face with Bernardo Silva, and at the same time he had to defend against De Bruyne. So 2 versus 1 in most of the scenarios, that's why we lost. And what is more concerning to me, when we saw that Carlo is seeing the match live, right? He was in the sideline. He saw that our players were struggling and he did not make a single tweak, a single change, so that something different will happen. Anyway, let me know, do you agree with these points or disagree in the comment section below.